It took me over a decade of working out and experimenting to find this balance between being shredded and having a full life. So I feel like it would be irresponsible of me to try and stuff 10 years of knowledge into one video. But instead what I'll do is just show you how fitness changed my life. Because that's something I wish I had when I first started out. You see, for most guys, losing weight or gaining muscle is more than just a goal. It becomes an identity. And while that can be a great thing, like anything, if it goes too far, it can become an obsession. And I have both personally been there. I've had times where it was such an obsession that it consumed my entire life. It wasn't healthy. But also on the other end of the spectrum, I've had times where I've gotten lazy and I've let myself go. And again, that isn't healthy either. So the question is, how do we stay consistent? Well, I think a lot of that comes down to perspective and why you are doing what you're doing. So let me take you back to when I was a freshman in college. Back then, I was very skinny, not very strong, and definitely not very confident. But those things don't really matter because no one even noticed those things about me. What they did notice was that I was always smiling. You see, I was new in school. Everything was exciting and I had zero problems talking to anyone. People would come up to me and ask me where I was from, how old I was, and if I had a girlfriend. They knew me by name. All of my professors knew me, and I remember being in class and sitting next to someone who didn't know my name, and they were like, "Hey, why does everyone in this class know your name?" And I said, "I don't know. It's just because I talk to everybody." That's kind of who I am. And then fast forward to today. Now people look at me differently. They might say, "Wow, you're so jacked." Or "What do you do for a living? Are you a model?" But a lot of them don't know that I graduated with a degree in exercise science. And there's almost like this disconnect. People have this perception of who I am based on what they see, and they don't know my story. And that has both positives and negatives. A positive is that now when I walk into a room, I carry myself a little bit differently. I have more confidence. A negative is that some people are intimidated by me and they don't want to talk to me. I've had friends approach me and they've asked me for advice because they wanted to make progress in the gym themselves, but they didn't know where to start. But in order for me to help them, I need to understand why they want to change. Because sometimes we get caught up in aesthetics or societal expectations, and when we lose sight of ourselves in that process, that's when it becomes unhealthy. Take, for example, all of these bodybuilders on social media. Like some of them are super jacked, but they're not necessarily role models. I mean, sure, they're great at solving the problem of building muscle, strength, and size. But that doesn't mean they're the best role models when it comes to lifestyle. Because some of them are taking extreme measures to get there. Whether that's with their diet, taking drugs, or sacrificing family time. These guys have made a career out of bodybuilding, and they're very good at it, but they're not necessarily experts at life. On the other end of the spectrum, I know a lot of personal trainers who have six-pack abs, but they aren't really good examples of overall health, because when they're not at work, they're not working out and they're not eating well. Some of them drink heavily and party hard. And while that's okay, it just doesn't align with their brand and their identity as a personal trainer. But then there are others who have found a great balance between being fit and having a life. We're still working on our craft. We're still trying to solve this problem of how we can build muscle, strengthen size, and improve our health. But we're also working on our business, on our relationships, and on ourselves. These are the people who I consider to be role models. And I'm constantly looking to surround myself with people like that. When I was younger, I used to think that success meant I had to sacrifice everything to get there. But now I think success means that I get to choose what matters to me. And that's a much better way to live, because now I'm not wasting time trying to meet other people's expectations. I'm only pursuing what's important to me. For example, I've done bodybuilding competitions and I've taken bodybuilding seriously for many years. But I wouldn't recommend that path to most people. There are so many sacrifices that have to be made in order to reach that level, and maintain that level that you have to be absolutely obsessed with it. Now, if you're that kind of person, then maybe it is for you. But for most people, I would recommend focusing on getting stronger on the big lifts like squats, deadlifts, and bench press. And as you get stronger, that will translate into more muscle strength and size. And that's just a much more sustainable and enjoyable path. Because in bodybuilding, there's this weird taboo against doing the big lifts. Bodybuilders don't squat, they do things like side lunges and leg extensions. But if you're really trying to build muscle, strength, and size, then you should be doing the big lifts. Unfortunately, the majority of personal trainers out there don't understand that. They think that bodybuilding is the only way to achieve aesthetic goals. But that's not true. In fact, it's probably the least efficient way to get there. If you want to be lean and muscular, then you can cut calories and lift weights. But the key is to find a calorie deficit that works for you, and that you can sustain long term. If you want to be strong, then you can focus on progressive overload. Find a training style that works for you and stick to it. As you get stronger, you'll automatically get more muscular, and your physique will improve. If you want to compete, then you can follow a bodybuilding style of training. Just be aware of all the sacrifices that have to be made. If you haven't watched my videos before, I've actually competed in bodybuilding competitions, so I know what it takes to prepare for one. And if you're interested, there's a whole playlist of videos available. Now, the point of this video is to encourage you to find yourself within fitness. It's easy to get lost in the noise, but that's why I created this platform. I just want to help people figure out who they are within fitness. Like some people are introverted and shy, and they don't want to talk to anybody at the gym. And that's okay. Some people want to get really lean. And that's okay too. Some people want to get really jacked. That's great. Some people just want to resistance train or do cardio. It's all good. Some people want to do both cardio and weightlifting. Again, whatever you decide to do is completely fine. The key is that you find something that you enjoy and that you can stick to long term. Because in the grand scheme of things, none of this really matters. None of us are getting any younger. We're all gonna die. So enjoy the process, have fun with it, and be patient. Don't rush it. Results come to those who are consistent. And consistency comes from enjoying what you're doing. Which brings me to my last point. We often compare ourselves to other people, but we should be comparing ourselves to ourselves. That's why I believe in taking progress pictures and measurements, because those numbers and that data is far more accurate than how we feel or how we look in the mirror. The mirror can lie to us. Our feelings can deceive us, but numbers don't lie. So take progress pictures every month and measure your biceps every week. Track your workouts, track your nutrition, and track your sleep. Then at the end of the week, review all that data and reflect on what worked and what didn't, and use that data to adjust the following week. That's how we find consistency. That's how we make progress, and that's how we find ourselves within fitness. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more content just like this one, and I'll see you guys soon.